Hello. 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 Yes. Good. You can probably hear there's another Finn playing at the same time. Mikael Nyström just tweeted that to please me they're playing Darude's Sandstorm in room 5. I thank him dearly for that respect. Finnish music has been widely used here this week. Started at the pre-con with Johan Arvidmark, and when I walked in, he was playing Nightwish, which is also a Finnish band. So, respect. All right. Hopefully, Darude Sandstorm won't make you get away from this room, though. So, what we're here for is an hour with proactive security, and because this will be videoed, and maybe some of you don't know who I am or we've never met before. My name is Sami Laiho. I'm from Finland. I teach anything related to operating systems, security, troubleshooting, Windows internals, whatever. Travel about 200 days a year in different conferences and training events, so that's me. Why are we here and why I want to talk about this is a big concern. Things have dramatically changed during the past few years. All the major anti-malware companies, CEOs or other chief executives have publicly said that their products will not be able to protect you in the future. And if you think about an American company like Symantec having their chief technical officer online publicly stating that their products will not be able to protect you, situation must be horrible. They would never do it otherwise. Okay? We moved from a yearly figure to a daily figure during the past few years. So just a few years ago, the yearly amount of new malware samples was around 300,000 samples. Now it's a daily figure. So in 2015, every single day there was 250 to 300,000 new malwares found. Is this really possible? And what makes it work like this is actually the way the malware has changed its mechanisms of spreading. So I was amazed about the figures, and even I had trouble believing that it is that much, but there are quite easy explanations why they are so big. So, for example, I saw at a Microsoft lab, I saw a malware that they found, and this malware works so that it infects a web server, and whenever a client opens up a session to that web server, it creates a new variant of that malware for that certain user. So if you have 10,000 users on that infected website, you have 10,000 new versions of that malware. So they produce a new one all the time. So we come to a situation where it's impossible to do reactive security because you would have to have someone who would list those fingerprints of 250,000 to 300,000 new malware samples every day. You don't want to be the guy who's doing blacklisting in a company from now on. So hopefully you've given up on that. Whitelisting is good for you. Blacklisting is disaster, okay? I also have these internals classes where I always tell people that you should learn by heart the 78 processes that the Windows OS is running at the minimum when it starts nowadays. And quite many are still like, are you sure that we actually, come on, 78? Like, I don't want to learn those by heart. Like, feels like going back to school. I don't want to do that. And I always give them the option, because if you want to know what's wrong with your computer, you cannot know what's wrong unless you know what's okay. So you can choose. You learn those 78 good things by heart, or you learn 300,000 every day by heart. Up to you, okay? Don't know how lazy you are, but I would never do reactive on that point. One big thing that's missing in security also is there are a few new white papers that just came out. So one of the biggest issues globally is lack of instructions. So that must not amaze us that much. We probably all knew that. So problem is that the kind of most people say that the outer layer of security is the actual instructions. So you should have instructions for people how to use their computer. We all know that the biggest security problem usually sits between the keyboard and the chair. So you would like to have simple instructions. I have an example for you. I'm sorry for all you Norwegians, but this is the map of the Oslo subway. Just dug it up. If you look at this from the Finnish perspective, it looks a bit complicated. So to simplify things, you should do it like we do it in Helsinki, because this is ours. It's a lot simpler to read, a lot simpler to understand. Although it might also mean that we have the most freaking smallest subway ever in the world, but we're getting a few new stations this year, so maybe it'll grow up. Okay, so please, before we get to anything, remember the importance of instructions. Instructions should be simple, not too long, and you would be better off if you made people not only read them, but sign them as well. If it's an electrical signing or a physical signature, I don't care, but somehow. Nowadays, it's almost impossible to work with a customer who says that, or you are the one who's saying that you should have read this. The human mind usually works in a way that the only way to make them agree with you that they should have read it is if you make them sign it. So that's why I make all my employees, which is my wife, well, I'm working for a lot of other companies. So as a consultant in security, I always make the companies make the end users also sign what they read. It's not that easy to get people to read it. A good example is from London. I'm quite sure you've heard the first example that I'm going to tell you. In the middle of London, a security company put up a honeypot wireless access point, a free Wi-Fi for City of London. And then they had a user agreement, and the user agreement didn't say anything else, but if you connect to this wireless access point, you promise to give us your firstborn child. And of course, everyone just accepts. And then they had a really funny newsletter about it. Like, you know that 250,000 people in London are willing to give their firstborn child to us. Well, one security guy actually kind of took notice about that one. And he actually did the more important investigation from my point of view, which was that they actually took the real, authentic wireless access points at the city center of London, downloaded the user agreement that you're supposed to read before you click connect. Hired a lawyer who's a professional reader. So he reads for his profession. He's a really fast reader. It took him 90 minutes to read through that license agreement. So honestly, that can't be true either. Like, that can't work either. You can't have people who are wandering around a wireless access point, needing wireless access, having 90 minutes first to read something. That's a terrible example of, okay, you might have those instructions, but are those actually readable? Do you actually benefit from them? I did this talk in Ignite called Zero Admin, Zero Trouble. And after that session, quite many people came to me and asked that, you are a consultant who works by removing admin rights from companies, yes? Yes. Now we know what you do, because you just showed us. So do you think that we should still hire you? And I told them that actually it might be easier for you to hire me, because then all your employees will blame me from taking away their admin rights, and not you. Because the problem here is that people are not willing to see this as making their lives better. They're still at the phase of, you're taking something away from me. We all know you have these users who will instantly, when you start telling them about this, they will tell that, now if I don't have admin rights, I will have to create a service desk ticket. That will make them work more, although I could fix it myself, and it'll take a week, as I would have fixed it in an hour. And that's really hard to convince against. I haven't used admin rights since 2002. That's when I started my proactive security on that part. And the funny part is that it has nothing to do with security. I took it away only because I'm lazy. You might want to work more, but I don't, honestly. I just hate working with computers if they don't work, okay? So I do that enough 8 to 4 at work. I don't like to do it at home. At that time, I had a girlfriend who installed something on our shared computer. And I opened up the computer, I went to my Outlook, and Outlook started these yellow smileys started jumping all around. Welcome to Outlook, have a wonderful day. So I went to her and asked, like, what did you do? I installed Outlook smileys. It'll make your life better. Okay, I'm going to take away your admin rights, and because I'm being fair, I'll take mine as well. The end result was the reason why I changed how I operate now. The reason was that before that, I installed my Windows every 6 months to every 12 months. At least once a year, but usually twice. Because Windows just gets slow when you use it. Everyone knows it. Just reinstall and everything works better. The only computer we two used, a shared computer, heavily used all the time at home, I reinstalled that computer the next time in January or February 2007. Because of a physical hard disk failure. So I save 5 to 10 reinstalls on our machines because I don't have a user account that has access to write all the crap in every single directory of your computer. That's why I don't do it. I like this, that it makes me more secure, but I'm just lazy. I don't want to work more than I have to. But that's so hard to get people to understand because they always see it as you are taking something away from them. I cannot run my Spotify anymore when I want. I cannot do this and that. I had a guy once in a big auditorium like this, and I was teaching a company and their end users on why we're doing this project. And suddenly an angry old man raises up from his seat and yells out loud, "You make it sound like we're not supposed to do anything else with our computers but work." Finally figured that one out. But yeah, that is a problem, I know. Well, when I do these projects, I often hear these notes from the field that I've gathered here. So many companies still say to me, we're quite good, we're only 25% admin. And most of the cases, it's always about laptop users. So laptop users are still admins, which is horrible, okay? Only our laptop users have admin rights. Yeah, actually, that's the same one. Sorry. We don't use firewalls on the internal network. That's a disaster. That's just like asking a malware to infect the whole company and not just a few. That's ridiculous if you're not running internal client-based firewalls on every single computer that have, and that includes servers as well, since 2008. So there is no reason for you not to be running those firewalls. Executives get admin rights. I always tell this, that this is a good test for yourself. This is an awesome test for yourself. Be honest. I will ask this from a customer. Be honest. If your CEO comes to you and says that he needs admin access to his computer, what do you do? I personally, of course, hope that you don't give them admin access if they don't need it. So why would they get it? They're even more dangerous than any other of your end users. But the bad thing, of course, is that although we admins believe that we are superhuman, sometimes these HR people have privileges that they can use that we don't. I tried that when I was a kid. I was 16. I was working as a domain admin for PepsiCo. I was you have to give me some slack here. I was 16, so I'm a teenager. I was suddenly a domain admin of over 30,000 computers in Europe and Northern Africa. So as being a geek like me, I basically had like domain admin written on my forehead because I was so proud about having these huge permissions. Superhuman permissions. And our CEO, well, the local lead here, not here, but in Finland, he came to me and said, I was like, I only grew up when I went to the army, so I was like this tall. And the guy was like my height and 55, and I was 16. And the guy comes to me like, it looks like I look at my documents on the server, and it looks like you administrators can read our home folders. Like, yeah. So, I want you to stop it. So you take away those permissions. I don't want no IT people reading my stuff, okay? Sir, there is no way in Windows that you could prevent me from getting into your files. Maybe not in Windows. Ended up being a very, very bad career move. took some heavy convincing from my manager to tell that country lead that he actually should still employ me. I didn't really get it that he can kick me out if he wants. So it is a tough question, but it's also a good exercise. Can you do it? From personal experience, I can say the hardest ones are family-run companies. If you have an old history of a family owning the company for 150 years and their CEO is the 5th generation doing this, those are just crazy difficult. They're so used to having all the power to themselves that if you're trying to convince them that you shouldn't do it, it is extremely difficult. We tried whitelisting but gave up. Very common one. We tried AppLocker, horrible, totally impossible to manage, way too much executables, had to give it up. Tried but destroyed everything, had to give it up. Let's look at that again later on, so we'll see why. Mac and Linux are good because they don't need antivirus. This probably everyone knows, and there's a lot of malware now out for both of these. So we all know malware is written to what is commonly used, so more Macs, more malware, okay? I think a excellent quote, although has nothing to do with computers, but works in this context very well, is by Benjamin Franklin saying an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And that just fits reactive security versus proactive security very well. Now we only have an hour. Now we don't even have an hour, but we have less than an hour to go through. So I honestly want you to have some sort of a task list or some sort of a list of prioritization. What should you do when you go home? So we can talk about what's cool and what's doable, but we can also try to give concrete examples. So I'd start by going back home and doing what we're going to go through next, which is how to prevent pass the hash. Pass the hash is prevented by correctly using security guidelines. You don't need really any technology to do it. It's not about installing better malware detectors or stuff like that. It's about the procedures, what you do with your admin rights, okay? Then hard disk encryption. If you don't have it, deploy it. Windows has no security without hard disk encryption. There is no. That's very weird nowadays because think about it. A normal home user goes to a shop and buys a new Windows PC, which only has his cinnamon roll recipes and stuff like that. Nothing of importance. Every single one of them has BitLocker. Every home user has BitLocker encrypted Windows. And you're still in your enterprise saying that we don't need it for everyone. Just use for laptops and stuff like that. It's like, come on. Get out of that fantasy now, okay? Then it's least privilege. Both Gartner, NSA, funnily NSA, Gartner both wrote their recommendations for 2016 and both say that over 80% of all threats out there could be mitigated by removing admin rights. So then that is your next thing to focus on. And then I'd say whitelisting. So we'll try to go through all of these. Let's start talking about pass the hash. So pass the hash is in no way a attack vector. It is a normal way Windows works. I'd say I'm quite sure almost everyone in this room has done a pass the hash attack. If you think you haven't, think again. Because what pass the hash does is the fact that in Windows, pass the hash is used to authenticate users over network. Let's say you have a local computer which has an administrator called admin with the password of password1. Then you take another computer next to it and have the same guy called admin with password1. You know that you can then browse your neighbors' C drives and stuff like that. You can do over network whatever you do like you would as a domain admin in Active Directory, okay? That's pass the hash. Some people still say that the computer tries its luck and tries if that admin account and the password1 would be correct to the other computer. No, it doesn't try to authenticate. It takes a hash value which is counted by that successful logon and then passes the hash to the other computer. And the other computer evals if that hash is the same based on his knowledge of usernames and passwords, because they are always the same if you have the same username and same password. They don't take into account computer names or SIDs or stuff like that. So pass the hash is a normal function of Windows. It's needed, and before AD in workgroup environments, it's been many cases in workgroup environments, it's like a daily way of creating this same sort of thing that you have with a centralized database. So, simple at the end. How do we stop pass the hash? Well, local pass the hash is super easy. Local pass the hash is totally eliminated from your company by making sure no admins have the same passwords on 2 computers. As I said yesterday on a session, if you were there, I'll repeat myself. NT 3.1 came out, security guidelines said that you should configure your computers like this. So 1993, it's taken us a while, but now maybe we should start doing it as it says in the manual, okay? So that's easy. That's why no one cares about local pass the hash in, for example, Microsoft created Credential Guard to protect from domain-based pass the hash. That's why they don't work with the local pass the hash, because it should be no problem if you just followed the basic guidelines. So, how do we do it? 2 options. You can use labs. Previously created by a Microsoft employee, but then Microsoft announced it publicly about a year ago. So labs, actually at last Ignite, so not even a year ago. So labs is a local admin password solution. That's free, and it can create local, it can make sure that your local admin accounts don't have the same passwords. It'll save that password to a attribute in your Active Directory. So you need to extend the schema a little bit, so be prepared, okay? And then you can go and read it from there. Because this didn't exist a while ago, I created a tool called Adminizer. Adminizer works in kind of the same way, but it allows one-time admin access, and also it works in workgroups. So, of course, a shameless self-promotion to check it out. Windows 8.1 and 10 give you a little bit more options if you're lazy. There's a minor change which might look like a minor change, but it's huge for Windows security. It's related to what Windows kernel calls pseudo groups. Pseudo groups are groups that have access granted by your status, not your identity. So a normal group, you're assigned to domain admins because you're John whatever. But pseudo groups are authenticated users, local, interactive, remote interactive logon, remote desktop user, something like that, which is by how you did something. So what's your current status, not who you are. Okay? And they added 2 new pseudo groups. So I could, of course, solve pass the hash by just using this. Deny access to this computer from the network. Add user or group, and then I could start adding. Like, if someone called admin2, don't let him in. But now we get to the blacklisting problem. You have no idea what they're called, okay? They might be different in different computers. So you can't use it. That's why, luckily, in 8.1, not even 8, but 8.1 and Server 2012 R2, you actually have 2 new pseudo groups. Those pseudo groups are, oops, where's my zoom it? Those 2 pseudo groups are these 2, which the below one is the one of importance here. So there is a pseudo group called local account and member of administrators group. So if I deny this guy access to this computer from the network, I have effectively killed off local pass the hash. That's a lazy option, because I'd still say you should still, even if someone gives you a gimmick of not having to read the manual, I'd still suggest you do read the manual. So rather make sure that you don't have the same usernames, same passwords for your admins. That is a wide fix, and that works for all operating systems. This one works 8.1 and 10, okay? But it's dead easy to implement. And it doesn't, think about it. Domain admin can still log on, because it's not local. It's part of the local administrators, yes, but it's not local, okay? So it's an AND operation, so both need to apply. Can you still fix the computer if you can't log on to the domain? Sure, because you're not logging through the network. You're going to that machine and logging on. That's fine. Because that was deny access from the network, not locally. And if you have Windows 10, why not just go and deploy Credential Guard? Credential Guard will then do the harder part, which is the domain one. So now the domain one is harder to fix, because a domain admin can by default log on to any machine. And that's harder to fix, because I can't have a domain admin for every computer with different password. That takes away the whole Active Directory idea of this. You can't really do it. Now, let's say, if you're lazy, you'll just do Credential Guard. Make sure you buy computers that have UEFI, have secure boot. They have hopefully a IOMMU. If that doesn't tell anything to you, you can watch my yesterday's session, Windows 10 internals, later on from the video. Microsoft is promised to have these new stickers available in a few months, which would be, when you buy a Lenovo laptop, it'll have a sticker saying device guard ready, or was it device guard enabled? The other one will work with device guard out of the box without going to the UEFI, and the other one will be able to do device guard and credential guard, but you have to go to UEFI settings. So minor difference with two different stickers. They're not out there yet. I'm kind of worried about it because they were promised like months and months ago. But that should be there. So try to find computers that can do Credential Guard. Then that's awesome. I've got Credential Guard here. I showed this demo yesterday. I'll only repeat the later half of it. So let's do process dump and dump my LSAS process, which houses all the hashes. So all Mimikatz and tools like that they use in the other sessions, all of them rely on the fact that they have access to LSAS. LSAS can be dumped because I can read the memory because I have access to the kernel as I'm an admin. If I do the same thing for the isolated Credential Guard, it'll give me a physical invalid access to memory location. I cannot read those hashes because my kernel can't even physically access that part of the memory. That's just killed by that. Well, that's not possible in Windows 7 and 8.1, and that's only doable in Windows 10 Enterprise, because device guard and Credential Guard are part of the Enterprise license. So now we need the other part here as well. So if we talk about Windows 7 and 8.1, now what you need to do is the first thing I would do if I would come to your company, right? I'm not expecting you to like me yet. It'll take a while to sink in. Then you'll like me, trust me. First of all, domain admins should not be allowed to log on to workstations. That's an old school thing and a silly thing to do. No domain admin should be allowed that. That is done by many companies by process, saying that everyone who has access to domain admin accounts has at least 3 levels of admins. At least 3 levels of user accounts. So they have their own user account, which they use to read email and stuff like that, which is a normal limited user. Then they have a workstation member server admin that can be used to take care of the bigger fleet. And then they have the domain admins, which are only used to administer domain controllers, which is the only place you actually need them. But that's usually not enforced, which comes to the sad guy or girl sitting between the keyboard and the chair problem. Because now, when you try to help someone, what usually happens is you try to help someone and then you think like, if I now choose the domain admin, then I don't have to later change to another one because that can do everything I need for my work. And then people are lazy, so they instantly log on using those domain admin accounts. They're not willing to go through this. Let's first try if the Sammy admin would work, and then we'll just change to the big one, okay? So that's why I like it to be enforced. So if you want to enforce it, it's the same thing we just saw. So the same thing can be done with the security policy. Deny access to this computer from the network, add users or groups, and then just add domain admins here. That's an easy thing to do by group policy. Now your domain admins won't do it. They will call you and complain. What's happened, like I'm a domain admin and like there's no one greater than me and I still can't even log on to a freaking basic workstation. Yes, because you're doing everything against security policies. Yes, now we just blocked it, we're sorry. So that's a first thing. Also try to think what kind of silos do you have of computers. So if you have an administrator, we're going to give him access. Does he really need access to this side of the room or the whole room? This side only. Good, you're good. Getting better. Take as little permissions as you can. You have to work less. Good. So hopefully he's good with only what he needs, but quite often it happens that, okay, he's anyway gonna manage everything, so why wouldn't he just connect to all the SAP servers that we have here? Although they're the most critical ones for your operations. So try to also think who needs access and where. So silos are a very, very good idea. So that's what I try to do. Use admin workstations. Now you hate me even more. I aim to please, as long as things go my way. Garfield said that once. But anyway, I'm sorry. Windows is not built to be managed by remote desktoping into a server. Never was. There's a reason why there's only 2 licenses for remote desktop. If you think about a big company and you have a server that needs to be administered, what's the idea of having limited to access to that remote desktop session on that server? I actually see people buying remote desktop licenses to make their administration server work better. Then you have AirSat, which has 16.7 million free licenses per installation. That's what was meant to be used to monitor, to administer servers. In Microsoft, you cannot access Azure by remote desktoping into a server that would be running Azure Hyper-V. You have to do it from a management workstation. It's the only thing that can be used to connect to those. There's no way of remote desktoping into a server. There are also technical reasons why you don't do it, so if you haven't read my blog, please do. This is one blog that is the most thanked blog that I've ever written. So Microsoft has thanked me many, many times that I did this, because they also say that when they do auditing for companies, this is the biggest mistake that there is. It's not buying a Surface Book. Let's find AirSat. Why you need to manage your GPOs from a Windows 8.1 and not with an RDP session to Server 2012 R2? First of all, many people think that if you use Group Policy Editor, it reads ADMX files to make sure that they're up to date. That's BS. Yeah, it does read those, but that's not half of it, because that editor uses the operating system below you as a source for information. That's why when I try to disable web client from a server, it doesn't exist. I can't do the policy that is required for my customers' workstations from a server because it doesn't exist. It's not there. Same example for apps. Let's create an app locker rule denying access to universal apps. Quite hard to do on a server because the list is based on the OS that you're running it on. There's no universal apps on the server. The Group Policy Editor does not use ADMX only. It does use a lot more. So if you do the same thing from a management workstation, everything's fine. There's your applications, there's your web client service, and everything's fine. That's how Windows was built to work. You administer by adding tools to your administration workstations. So keep that in mind as well. Everything applies to Windows 7, but Credential Guard makes your life a lot easier, at least currently. We actually did that. Hard disk encryption, okay? So hard disk encryption, I'm going to do a very, very basic one. You know this, I hope, because I've done this 1,000 times, and I think at least someone on this conference must have done the same thing. So I'm actually going to demo this very, very briefly on a virtual machine. Why we need BitLocker, okay? Let's do it here. How many of you have seen a failed demo during this week? It's been quite common. I don't know why. I've just somehow it caught my eye, like every session. You know what they did not do? The most important thing that every professional speaker needs to do before they start this thing. You have to sacrifice at least one nano server to the demo gods. Okay, here we go. Now we're good. Here we have a Windows 7. Let's actually take a Windows 10. Let's play a game. I'm a normal user and I want to have admin rights. I'm not talking about getting a local admin. I mean I'm a typical human being, meaning that I do not want to be bothered by using 2 accounts. Like, you already gave me a freaking local admin, but that doesn't have access to my documents. That's a different guy. So I need me to be an admin, okay? So we'll do the basic hack of Windows, which probably you know. So let's just reboot this from a media. Do this very fast-paced. Let's take any bootable media. So what I'll do is a downloaded media of Windows 10, for example, Enterprise x64. Then just reboot this box. You can do this with many different tools. I always use sethc.exe, which is the sticky keys, because it works on Windows XP and Server 2016 domain controllers as well. So it works very widely. Utilman and those other ones don't only work on current Windows versions. So I also do this a lot different than, for example, what Paula usually does, because I'm a blunt Finnish guy who doesn't care how horrible this looks. Let's just do a increase of font size so maybe you can see it. Okay. If I'm here to hack the computer, let's try C. That's not my Windows drive. That's my Windows drive. Let's go to Windows, System 32. I have my own way of doing this. This is different from others because of something you see later. So let's copy that to the previous folder. Then let's replace that sethc with cmd.exe, yes please. And then we'll exit out. And reboot. Check the media. Hope it's fast, because we've got a lot of stuff to go in 23 minutes. Oh my god, do not do that now. How many owns a Commodore 64 or has owned a Commodore 64? Awesome. Remember the good old times when you could still use physical power to fix computers? I loved it. Like, if you run out of space on a diskette, you would just cut a hole in it and you get it doubled. Like, you should be able to cut the USB key in half and get it doubled. It's like so what I'm going to do now is I'm physically going to attack the computer. So this kind of makes me feel good, because I can hit the shift key as hard as I can, as fast as I can, okay? So that we can get a command prompt. And let's increase the font size a bit. So then we can do whatever we want. So who am I? I'm Mrs. System, so I have full access to the computer. I'm actually lazy. I don't want to use the net use commands, etc. I'll just use a graphical computer management. That's in this example easier. Let's go to local users and groups, administrators. Now people always tell me that you have just hacked the local computer. That's nothing. Remember, I also hacked Mrs. System. Who does Mrs. System authenticate when they authenticate out of the computer? I know there's people from my classes, you've noticed it. What account does Mrs. System use when authenticating out of the box? Computer account, good, correct. So that means I have full read access to your Active Directory. I didn't hack the local computer only, I also hacked the computer account. I have a full trust relationship between your AD, so I can read whatever I want from your Active Directory as well. So let's just do a demo local, find my normal user, and add him to the local administrators group. Okay. Shut these down. And then we'll just log on. Oh, actually user is there, so we can just log on as user. Okay, now user has logged on and we can see that he can change the date and time, for example, that requires admin access. So managed by your organization, that's nice. Then that's then I even can't do that. Let's try CMD. Come on. Nope. Control Shift. Here you can see. Now it's an admin because it's only asking yes or no, okay? So now we got an admin account, all right? That's it. Well, if you have BitLocker, that's not a problem. So that's easy to fix. If you don't have BitLocker, every Windows except Nano server breaks with one command. That's just as silly as it sounds like, okay? So you should not require convincing of having BitLocker. It's only not only protecting your data, it's just making Windows to be even somewhat secure of an operating system, okay? Now, if you're an admin, you can take away BitLocker. That's why you need both. You can't be an admin, and you have to have BitLocker. Two things makes a secure Windows, all right? When you deploy BitLocker, try to go and start with good computers. So what I do, because I always, as I said, you don't like me in the first place, but you will later on. The same thing goes when someone calls me and tells me, "Hi, Sammy, could you come and help us out with the BitLocker deployment?" I always, just because it's so fun, I always reply, "Sorry, you're too late, bye," and hang up. And I hope they ring again, depending on their sense of humor. I have enough work, so. Anyway, what's the idea there is that people have usually always bought the computers when they call me. That's just a sad thing that happens, because BitLocker implementation begins by choosing correct computer models. If you want to have a secure BitLocker with Windows 7 on it, you have to buy computers that don't have a FireWire, Thunderbolt, or you have to disable those. You have to have UEFI so that you have secure boot, because secure boot is the most critical component of BitLocker nowadays. So it begins by buying correct hardware, okay? Then make sure you have backups of your recovery keys. Nowadays, by default, they go to the cloud. If you're in a domain, you have to make some changes to your policies and maybe your schema to be able to upload those automatically to Active Directory, or you buy Microsoft MBAM. Now, people have not been that anxious in buying MBAM because you have needed to buy MDOP, Microsoft Desktop Optimization back. You should remember, since Windows 10, MDOP is free for all SA customers. So if you're a software assurance customer, you no more need to pay for MDOP like you did before. Now it's included, but you do have to pay for your SA, but now it's included. Be secure enough but realistic, honestly. Don't try to be the military if you're not. So things get out of hand. If you want to look at it, go to channel 9, channel9.msdn.com, and find my session on building a bulletproof BitLocker. I'll tell you stories about Finnish nurses getting tortured in Germany. My customers are sometimes so far from this reality, okay? So, now that BitLocker was compromised, why can't we have administrators in our end-user environments? Why can't they be admins? I'll try to look at it from a bit different perspective, because I'm quite sure you are aware of the normal ones. So let's start with a rule of Windows security related heavily on this least privilege thing. So NT 3.1 security guide says that all local admins have full access to the computer. It's even nowadays in Windows 10. Administrators have complete and unrestricted access to the computer. So, by definition, there is no way of controlling, there is no way of blocking admins from doing something. They can do whatever they want, and you can't fight against it. You're only fighting against windmills. That's just not working, okay? And it's not meant to work. You have to remember, by definition, they can do what the hell they want. So, another thing is this one. This is a brand new thing. It was announced like 2 days ago. It was under embargo, so I couldn't tweet it before today. So they tweeted it out, I think, yesterday. So now it's official. It's from a company called Avecto, and it's their brand new one. But it's based on Microsoft's year 2015 security analysis. So the figures are from Microsoft. You can look back more at this, but it's still the thing that there's a lot more vulnerabilities than there ever was. And still every 4 out of 5 or more of these vulnerabilities do not apply to you if you are not running an admin. And sorry to say, but UAC is not enough, okay? So they can't be an admin with UAC. That doesn't help. Helps a little, but not all. Okay. Now, your administrator gets what are known as privileges, and this is the sad thing and sad fact about my Windows is that privileges beat permissions. You guys can do permissions. Let's say you are an admin, so I will prevent you from reading that file. That's a permission. That's fine. That's what I can do to try and prevent him from going there. I can say deny take ownership from especially you. Why me? You sit in the front row. Good luck. So I can't see the other people. That's also one. Blinded. So okay. Thanks for coming. So can you fight against it? You sure can, because you have this privilege. Take ownership of files or other objects. If I say deny take ownership, it doesn't do anything for you because you got the privilege of taking ownership. And privileges, by definition, beat permissions. So I can't block you from reading that data. That's what I said to the 55-year-old CEO. Because that's what I meant. There's no way he could block me from reading his files. We have other privileges as well. Let's see a few cool privileges. How do you get this computer unhacked? Okay. We've got this guy here who hacked the computer, but now the problem is that if he hits the shift key 5 times, he gets the command prompt. So we have to fix this hack. And now, because I'm using privileges, I need UAC elevated command prompt because I'm my privileges are not otherwise enabled on my access token. So let's go here. And what I'll do is first, let's do this copy set HC. This is what we want to do, okay? So, from the C Windows folder to here, okay? So let's replace it, because I copied it to a safe place first. So I'll just replace it back here where it should be. Alright, yes please, no bonus. Access is denied, as supposed to. Because what I'd have to do is take ownership, because some guy called Trusted Installer happens to own everything in Windows nowadays. And then I'll have to give myself access to it. Then I have to take away attributes. Then I'll replace it. Then I put the attributes back, take away my permissions, give the ownership back. Horrible job, okay? But I could technically do it. So let's use a privilege instead, okay? So RoboBobby, no, RoboCopy. RoboCopy is a folder copy tool, so I have to tell it to copy from C Windows to C Windows System 32 with a filter of sethc.exe. Will not work because it's access denied, of course, because I don't have it. Now I'll do it through the backup API. Copied. Because I have a privilege of restoring files. I don't have to care about your permissions because I can restore what the hell I want. So that is a great example. Although it's ownership is taken, you're denied, everything is done so you wouldn't do it. I'll just because it's a privilege, and privileges beat permissions, okay? Now that I'm an admin, I actually want to use my privileges a bit more. Let's see if we have remote desktop enabled. Remote, yes, it's even enabled by a policy. That's awesome. Okay, for now it's good. I'm only Mr. User, okay? So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to call our service desk, which is here on the server. Okay, and I'm going to log on the server, and then I'm going to place a call. This is Mr. Laiho calling hello. I am literally in front of, I'd say, 300 people, and I have a very, very important session to have here, and my PowerPoint is not working. So can you please remote desktop into my box and try to fix the PowerPoint? So I'll try to tell them stupid Finnish jokes, and hopefully no one notices. Okay, thank you, bye. Now, We hope they do it. So what they'll try to do is they will log on. Now I'm not, if you know a other demo I do sometimes, see, I didn't do any preparations. I haven't done anything. This is not a bait thing. I haven't injected a malware or anything like that. So we'll just log on, and the admin log on here. And it says that someone else is logged on because he's an admin nowadays. Yeah, I'm actually very happy that you're going to block me. Throw me out. Okay, so now he's logging on to the computer, and now he tries the PowerPoint and sees that the PowerPoint is actually working just fine. So he sends me a message back saying, sorry, Mr. Laiho, but your PowerPoint is working. I, of course, believe you that it didn't work when you called me, but now it's working anyway. Thank you. Okay, well, fair enough. That's fine for me. So there's nothing to fix here. I'll just lock that off. Now, what you see all over the place on the internet is people saying, this is so funny. You find people on YouTube, they will tell you, I have spent like 2 years of my life investigating this issue, and I have found a way of creating an application that will steal a user's identity. And YouTube is full of that. Although it's a normal privilege of Windows. Okay? So what I'll do instead is I will run a tool from a guy called Alex Ionescu, one of the co-authors of the Windows internals. He's created a tool called Process Hacker, which is kind of a competitor for Process Explorer, but a bit more black hat oriented. Okay, so I'll find our domain administrator here, demo admin. Right click, miscellaneous, run as this user. Let's do like CMD. Okay. And I'm the company domain admin. Like super hard to steal an identity in Windows. I need 2 years to investigate this. Duh. Think about it. I have a privilege called impersonate a client after authentication. It's a normal privilege. If that wasn't in Windows, you couldn't access a file on your file server because the server service on your file server replies to your question for a file, but that is running as Mrs. System. I can't go to the file system and ask as Mrs. System, can I read that file? Because you asked for it. So I have to impersonate you. I impersonate you and ask for that so we know if I have access to it or not. Impersonation is a function of Windows OS. It's built in and it's supposed to work. No magic in it. So, privileges beat permissions, okay? GPOs don't help. Now you're going to tell me next, like, yeah, true. No, you're not. You're wiser than that, but many people will tell me that, no, we block them with group policies. You saw a group policy just a second ago, I think. So people will tell me group policy settings will gray things out. That's also total nonsense. So they say that this is a policy because it's grayed out. Group policy doesn't gray things out. It's the guy who wrote this tab here who grays things out. Group policy has nothing to do with graying things out. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go here and read the brand new Windows 10 ADMX spreadsheet. So that's the one that has all the group policy settings for Windows 10. And then I'm going to find a group policy here which is known as allow remote users to log on to Windows something, blah, blah, blah. And as I don't remember exactly what it is, and I do not have time to start browsing through, I will find it like this. It's allow users to connect remotely, okay? Allow users to connect remotely by using remote desktop services. Good thing about this document is that it also states where it is in the registry, okay? So that's the registry where it is. So let's go back here. Let's do regedit. Yes. And then we will find it. HKey local machine, software, policies, Microsoft. Windows NT, terminal services, FDNITS connections, delete. Yes, please. sysdm.cpl. Remote. Ooh. Group policy. Horrible. Lucky I can breathe still. Now, I'm always fighting against the AD people. I don't know how many of you are AD people, but if you consider yourself being AD people, I'm always in the fight with AD people, because this is the place where AD people will tell me that, no, but you do not, Mr. Laiho, understand this, because in 90 to 120 minutes there will be a GP update. So we win. No, you lose. Why? Well, because by default, let's switch that off. Now the policy has updated. We can go to the registry and nope, it's not there. Okay. Of course, it would be if I would run force. I'm gonna do a session in Ignite called "May the GP update / force be with you," because it's like, honestly, wherever I go, I teach this stuff for my profession. I tell people, we will now test how GP update is different from GP update / force. Then I tell people in the classroom, now you run GP update. Did you get the setting back? Everyone says, no. And then there's one, yes. Did you run only GP update? I couldn't. Okay. It's like built into people. You always run. There's a university in Helsinki. If you go to their help desk, the door doesn't say help desk. It says GP update / force. Solves every problem in Windows anyway. So it's like, before you get in, try this. So, no, it won't. Why? Because group policy runs only GP update. GP update only reads policies that have changed. I didn't change the policy, I took it away from my computer. So it will never be back on this computer unless someone runs GP update / force manually, or you change Active Directory settings to include those registry settings even if they have not changed, or you change the policy. Then it will come back. Only exclusion from this rule is security settings. So many people, when I ask, when will it come back? They will, reboot. No. Log on. No. A year. No. It will not come back, honestly, because if someone doesn't change that policy, it's never read, because GP update / force is never run, except for security policies every 16 hours. Security policies are read every 16 hours, even if they haven't changed. But everything else, it's never read. And if that would, honestly, if you would go to the group policy setting and change it so that you think I couldn't do this, I would actually just go to this policies, permissions, Mrs. System, deny, and I don't have to read policies at all. Because Windows is just silly in a way that if you can't read, you don't have to obey the law. That's like saying that blind people can do whatever because they can't read. I know it's a bit rude, but basically the same issue in Windows. As long as you can't read the policies, they do not apply. Did you see that? No? Why UAC is not enough? We have a few minutes. Now you have to bear with me with the last demo. I have a few slides on AppLocker, and I know many of you are waiting for it, so you will get all the slides later on, and if you are in a real hurry, you can just email me whenever you want, Sami@adminize.com, or Twitter @Sami Laiho. What I'm going to do next is a few things why I believe many of you believe that UAC is enough to secure you. So UAC, we can bypass UAC in a few ways. Look through this very carefully before we talk about that. So think about this. If I try to run CMD with an admin, I get asked yes or no. Okay? Well, Windows Vista, UAC bugged people so much that they were angry at Microsoft, and everyone complained. I will not use UAC, it bugs me all the time. So then Microsoft gave up. They just said, okay, we will make it less secure if you won't use Windows otherwise. We'll just make it less secure, because nowadays it is less secure. Think about this. Let's take, for example, Task Scheduler here, okay? Look carefully and keep in mind what I do, okay? So I'll do a task here, which is called flumalaw, and it'll run an action called new, browse, CMD, right click, open. I'm quite sure I didn't press yes at any point. Did I? I don't think I elevated anything, although I'm elevated. That's the problem with Windows 7 and up, because all Microsoft binaries for management are by default not asked for elevation. So task scheduler is elevated instantly, and if I do anything from there, everything is elevated already. On the other hand, bad USB is a new thing. So this one here is the old one, which is called a rubber ducky. So you've probably seen these. That's an old thing, okay? Rubber duckies were introduced like 5 years ago. You could use a rubber ducky to just inject code into Windows, okay? It uses the keyboard driver so it can bypass UAC. Normally this CMD here goes dark gray because it's run on what's known as the secure desktop. So the application asking for elevation can't click yes, okay? But now we're using a driver so we can do whatever we want. Well, now the problem is a lot bigger with this. Bad USB. They found a hole 2 years ago in the USB itself. So USB firmware is not signed at all. So you can replace your your firmware on a USB key and do the same thing. Let's see that in action. I have one of my favorite tools that I carry with me, and I just try and hope not to put it in the wrong computer. Let's take, there's one that we can sacrifice here. So I'll need this to be full screen to be sure. Let's unplug my normal mouse. Sorry, I can do this first. So admin will log on. And I will unplug my normal mouse, and then I have a bad mouse. Bad mouse, very bad mouse. HP has a very bad mouse, okay? Because it has a controller in it that can be also reflashed, okay? Plug it in, see what happens. Now you have to pay attention, otherwise you don't catch it. See what happens, I'm not doing anything, okay? So I'll plug the USB in, correct way. That's my Surface Book, not playing nice. That should be chosen. That usually happens is I don't have the VM chosen. I don't want to do it on my own machine because this really destroys a computer. So CMD. Did you see it? Administrator. It's elevated. Because that bad mouse can press yes, because it's using the keyboard driver. Why it didn't do anything for me was the good thing that I have to save me from all trouble in the world. Luckily, I was using the Finnish keyboard layout, so that saves you from anything. Otherwise, it would have hacked my power management from the computer and rebooted it, and it'll boot to a blue screen without ability to create a memory dump. It's a very serious piece of device. That's why I don't want to do it on my own machine, okay? Let's end this by seeing a demo of... Oh, I'm over. Sorry, I'm 5 minutes over. Oh my God. Reason why you need UAC. They just finished. I'm not the only one who's late, okay? Let's close this up. World's cutest puppy. This is the best way to hack any company. I use it always. This works for women better. Sorry. They have the 12 cutest puppies of year 2015 or 12 cutest babies of 2015. Men have 10 something else of 2015. Okay? And I always say it's just depending on the price. Promise Finnish guys seasonal pass for ice hockey games and they'll click whatever you ask them to click. I did this in Ignite, offering a free Surface Book 3, 2,500 people. 10 quickest to go there, click it, click enable, get a free Surface Book 3. Awesome to see like 1,500 people going. Like, I had to yell them, stop, don't go there. So this is my golden retriever, by the way. His name is Samson. He was in beginning of 1980. He was 3 years in a row the most cutest golden retriever in the Nordics. So he's a certified penetration tester. Has the cuteness required for penetrating a company. Okay. So if you go and pet him, it'll ask enable. And now nothing bad happens even if I pet him, because UAC works. Now what people say is that they don't want to deploy, oops, bad mouse. It's attacking me physically. So the problem here is that people say that we don't need UAC because UAC will always ask yes or no, and the human is the stupid one who will press yes. That's not true. UAC blocks 75% of attacks without asking you anything. Only 25% will cause that yes or no. So you want to use UAC. If I do it without UAC, then very bad things happen. And I'm quite sure. Do we have it here? That's an admin prompt. Let's just do this. So copy as path and run it from an elevated command prompt. Okay, now I don't have UAC. Now, before I click enable, see this on my machine, Windows P, project. Okay. Now I'll click enable. Windows P, command prompt. When someone finds my computer after this, even if it's locked with BitLocker, hacked. So that PowerPoint actually injected that hack, so it doesn't matter if I have BitLocker or not. But that was bypassing UAC. So what I meant to show you was that UAC will help you in this. And now I have to be very quick. Never know what happens there. Not sure. No, that's the wrong one, yes. Now we got the right one. Toe! If it would have voice detection, I would add toe. So now we are at the very end of my NIC 2016. So the last slide that we have is actually just to remember to fill in evals, and I'll leave it here when I get it up. Thank you very much.